I'm 85 years old, and there is one truth I wish I had known earlier. Not when I was young and hungry, not even when I was successful. Earlier than that, I spent most of my life believing a comforting illusion. The illusion that if I just worked hard enough, long enough, everything else would eventually fall into place. Love, peace, meaning, rest. I believed sacrifice was noble by default. I believed exhaustion was a badge of honor. I believed there would be time later. And for decades, that belief carried me forward like a sturdy boat. It kept me moving. It kept me busy. It kept me from asking dangerous questions. But it was also quietly taking something from me, 1 year at a time. If you are young, you've probably been told the same story. Grind now. Live later. Delay joy. Delay presence. Delay yourself. I'm here to tell you something uncomfortable. Later is not guaranteed. And even when it arrives, it doesn't look the way you imagined. If you listen to this entire story, you might save yourself 40 years of regret. Not because my life was a failure, but because it was almost empty of the one thing I thought I was working toward. And the worst part? I didn't realize it until it was already gone. But that's not even the moment that broke me. That came much later. From the outside, my life looked exactly right. I woke up before sunrise. Same alarm. Same sound. I dressed in the dark so I wouldn't wake my wife. Coffee, black. Toast, usually burned. I read the paper without really reading it. Then I left. Every day felt productive. Meetings, deadlines, projects that needed my name on them, people who depended on my decisions. I liked that feeling. Being needed, being important somewhere. I stayed late more often than I stayed early. It was easier to be at work than to explain why I was tired when I got home. I told myself I was doing this for my family, for security, for the future. In the evenings, my body came home before my mind did. I sat at the table while my thoughts stayed in the office. My wife talked about small things. Groceries, neighbors, a story about our son at school. I nodded. I smiled. I was there, technically. On weekends, I planned finances instead of trips. I checked accounts, adjusted projections. I felt calm watching the numbers grow. Each digit felt like progress, proof that my sacrifice mattered. I missed dinners, but I never missed a paycheck. I missed conversations, but I never missed a promotion. And I told myself this was balance. Everyone around me said I was doing well, reliable, responsible, a good provider. Those words felt heavy and warm at the same time, like a thick coat I never took off. I thought I was climbing the right ladder, step by step, year by year. What I didn't see was that the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall, and I didn't notice the cost at first. Because costs like these are quiet. They don't scream. They whisper. And I kept walking forward, certain I was doing everything right, until the day my body forced me to stop. And that's when everything cracked open. It happened in a hospital corridor that smelled like disinfectant and old air. The kind of smell that tells you this place has seen too much. I was 67 when the doctor said the word slowly, carefully, like it might shatter if he spoke too fast. My name was on the chart. My body was the subject. I remember the paper gown sticking to my skin. I remember the cold metal edge of the bed against my calf. I remember nodding as if I understood, even though nothing made sense. Serious, manageable, time-sensitive. Those words followed me home. The house was silent in a way I had never noticed before. Not peaceful. Empty. The walls felt farther apart. The furniture looked like it belonged to strangers. I stood in the bathroom that night and looked at myself in the mirror. The man staring back looked older than I felt. Or maybe I had been older all along and was only just noticing. My hands shook when I tried to button my shirt. Not from fear, from exhaustion. That was the moment I realized something terrifying. If I died soon, my work would replace me in a month. My position would be filled. My emails archived. But the conversations I had postponed, they were simply gone. I noticed the chair across from me at the kitchen table. My wife had gone to bed early. She didn't ask many questions anymore. We had learned how to live around each other instead of with each other. I had built a life so efficiently that there was no room left inside it. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because of pain, but because of a thought that wouldn't let go. What if this is it? What if this is the summary? And that wasn't even the most painful realization. The most painful part came the next morning, when I understood that even if I survived, I didn't know how to live any differently. And that question stayed with me longer than the illness ever did. Recovery gives you time. And time, when you can't outrun it, asks questions. I started examining the beliefs that had shaped my life. Success, I realized, was a moving goalpost. Every time I reached what I thought was enough, the field simply stretched farther away. Like chasing a horizon that recedes with every step, I had been running on a wheel, like a hamster. Constant motion, no arrival. Money was supposed to be safety. That was the promise. But safety from what? It didn't protect me from distance. It didn't sit beside me when the house was quiet. It didn't ask how I was really doing. I had mistaken accumulation for meaning. I climbed a ladder without asking who placed it there, without asking where it leaned, without asking what I was stepping over on the way up. I told myself I was being responsible. But responsibility without presence is just absence with an excuse. The hardest illusion to face was this. I believed sacrifice automatically turned into love. That if I gave enough hours, enough energy, enough of myself, people would feel it. They didn't. They felt my absence. They felt my distraction. They felt the space where I should have been. I thought providing was the same as participating. I was wrong. And then there was the illusion of time. The idea that there would always be a later chapter, a quieter season, a reward phase. Life doesn't work like that. There is no final level where you rest and enjoy everything you delayed. There is only now, stretched thin or lived fully. I had spent decades treating my life like a rehearsal, waiting for the real performance to begin. But there is no rehearsal, only scenes you show up for, and scenes you miss forever. That realization didn't arrive all at once. It came slowly, in flashes, in moments when I noticed what wasn't there. And that's when the regret started to become specific. Painfully specific. I regret a Tuesday afternoon when I chose to stay late instead of catching the 5 p.m. train home. My son had a school performance that night. I told myself there would be another one. There wasn't. I regret the blue dress my wife wore to a dinner party. She asked how she looked. I answered without looking up from my phone. I don't remember the conversation. I remember the way her smile faded. I regret a Sunday morning when my father called. I was tired. I told him I'd call back. I never did. 2 weeks later, I was standing at his funeral, trying to remember the sound of his voice. I regret how quiet my house became before I noticed the silence, how we learned to coexist instead of connect, how familiarity replaced intimacy. I regret believing that my body would wait for me, that my energy would always be there, that my health was a given. I regret measuring my worth in numbers that can't sit beside you when you're afraid. Each regret is small on its own. That's how they get you. They don't announce themselves as life-altering moments. They look ordinary. That's what makes them dangerous. You don't feel the loss until you add them up, until decades pass, until you realize the sum of your days was shaped by what you postponed. And the worst regret of all? I regret not asking myself sooner what I actually wanted my life to feel like. Because once you ask that question honestly, everything changes. But asking it late means answering it with what's left. And yet, this is not where the story ends. Because awareness, even late, still matters. Today, my life is smaller. And because of that, it is clearer. I walk slower. I listen longer. I say what I mean while I still can. I no longer confuse busyness with purpose. I sit with my wife in the mornings now. We drink coffee without rushing. Sometimes we don't talk, but the silence feels shared, not empty. I don't plan decades ahead anymore. I plan conversations. Dinners, walks, apologies. I've learned that peace doesn't come from control. It comes from presence. If there is one truth I want to leave you with, it's this. Someday is today, not tomorrow. Not after the next promotion. Not when things calm down. Today is the only currency you can spend on what matters. So ask yourself, honestly, if your life ended sooner than expected, what would be missing? Not from your resume, from your relationships. Who would say you were always busy, but rarely there? You don't need to quit everything. You don't need to burn your life down. You just need to stop living like this is a draft. Because one day, sooner than you think, you'll wake up older, quieter, and aware. And the only question that will matter is this: did you spend your days chasing a life, or actually living one? Before it's too late.